Welcome to the Mission Channel. My name's Charity Pepuzani. Today I'm so excited because in the studio with me is my friend Lydia Smith, and she's here to share her work that she does with Youth with a Mission, which is known as YWAM. Good afternoon, Lydia, and
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome.
Welcome. You're welcome. Thank you very much. I just want you to introduce yourself to our Mission Channel audience, because I know you as my friend, I know you as my babysitter, I know you as so many things, but who are you and what do you do?
Wow, that's a big question. I've just had a birthday and I shall keep the number secret. But yes, I come from Manchester, originate in Manchester. Mm-hmm. I've spent time in other parts of the country, either as a result of for the family moving, or I was down in West Sussex training as a nurse in the early 1980s. And then I went overseas and worked with Youth with a Mission's first ship, the MV Anastasis. Wow. And I was a missionary nurse on board the ship.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved with Youth with a Mission? It says here the Youth with a Mission to know God and make Him known. How did you get involved with them?
Well, that goes back a very long way, actually. It goes back to 1979.
Wow. I was not born then.
You weren't born there, no. Yeah, 1979, and there was a group visiting a church in Manchester. The church was a very well established church, quite a large church, and a group came to town called Living Sound. Right. One of the members of that group was Don Moen, actually, that people would be familiar with Don. And they came regularly to that church. Is
that the church which is now Authentic City Church?
It is,
It was Beth Shan then?
Beth Shan, yeah, Tabernacle, yeah. Which actually started out of a missionary venture in Levenshulme Town Hall when two evangelists came and they preached the gospel and had healings and miracles happening, and a church was birthed out of that meeting. And it's now called Authentic City Church, but Don Moen and the other team members used to come to Beth Shan regularly, and as a young person, although I didn't belong to that church, I would visit and visit the youth group and go to these meetings when this musical team came. And it was one of them. Wow. It was Tim Hoover, who was one of their vocalists, who is now in heaven singing with the Lord, to the Lord. And so Tim told me about it.
About Youth with a Mission.
About Youth with a Mission, yeah. I went down and, they had like a time of ministry after the concert. And I was speaking with Tim and, based on what I was sharing, he said, I think you should get in touch with Youth with a Mission. So that's how I first heard about it. Right. And then the same year I went out with Youth with a Mission to the south of France on one of their summer of services. Right. And they do, it's an evangelistic mission. And they did loads and loads of outreaches around the world. And so one of them was in Avignon in the south of France. Right. And I saw this massive drama they did. It was so good. And I was impressed by this organisation. They were very down to earth. And then the names I'm mentioning are people who have been in Youth with a Mission now a long, long time. Right. But I remember Tom Bloomer and his lovely wife Cynthia, who's dancing before the Lord now. They befriended me and spoke to me about the discipleship training school. And then later on, I went back to France in November 1979 and did a discipleship training school. Okay,
so you've told me a story about a dream that you had that led you to now start working with one of the ships which was part of Youth with a Mission. So is it okay if you can share that dream that you had?
Yeah, well, yes, I've had different dreams. The Lord has spoke to me in dreams over the years. And how I heard about the ship, that wasn't actually a dream. I had the word,
Right.
and I'd never heard of the ship.
Okay.
I was asked to play a ping pong tournament to raise money for a ship. And they said, oh, the name of the ship is Anastasis. And I was like, what? Wow, shocked. Because sometime before, the Lord had given me this word, Anastasis.
Right.
And I didn't know what it meant.
Okay.
So I believe that was the Lord calling me to work with this ship. And at the time, it was in a Greek shipyard being renovated. So the people in the shipyard were praying for
people,
workers.
Right.
They were praying for people to help with the renovation of the ship. It was an ex-passenger liner, an Italian vessel, but it had reached the end of its life, you know, in commercial terms, and now it was being renovated under voluntary labour to become a hospital ship.
Right.
And so they were praying. But at the same time, they were praying for staff, and God was speaking to me in England to go.
And it was docked in Germany at the time.
It was in Greece. It was a Greek shipyard.
Okay.
But it wasn't a medical ship at the time. It was being renovated. And praise God, you know, he answers prayer.
Amen.
And they were calling out to God for workers. And then, so God spoke to me about the ship. He also changed the direction of my career. I was going to go and work in Brussels and, you know, work there and travel the world, earn loads of money. And
Make money.
And... You know, and but God spoke to me and told me not to do that, and he directed me to go and train as a nurse, which was the farthest thing. I didn't want to do that, you know. But
sorry, when you say God directed you, how did you know that it was God telling you? Just in case somebody's watching out there and, you know, they have this feeling that they want to do this, but they don't really know. How did you know that it was God telling you not to be a nurse? Sorry, not to go to Brussels. Instead, go and train and be a nurse.
Well, when a person gets born again, you know, they give their life to Christ, your spirit becomes alive.
Right.
And you can communicate and connect and hear the Spirit of God. And sometimes it's an audible voice. You know, like in the Bible, the book of where it talks about Samuel being called, and it was an audible voice.
Yeah.
And it wasn't an audible voice for me, but it was an impression. Your spirit is alive. So I actually applied to go to Brussels and work in the Parliament, and I got the letter.
So they gave you the job?
I applied.
Oh, you applied?
So they sent me a letter for interview, and I opened the letter, and as I read the letter, in my spirit, which is alive because I was born again, the Spirit just nudged me and said, don't do this.
Right. Don't
go to Brussels. That's all. So I obeyed, and I just ripped it up and thought, right, I'm not going to Brussels. And then I started to look for a job. At the time I was living in Crawley in West Sussex. And I went, it was pre-internet days, this is all very pre-internet. So in the olden days, in the labour exchange, there would be a board, you know, like a board here.
With notices.
With the jobs on, yeah. And so I was looking for a job. I had, you know, language skills and administration and...
typing.
Yeah, I could type. Yeah, I'd gone to night school to learn to type. My dad said, oh, this will be useful for you. So I went to Levenshulme High School to do that. And as I was looking for a job, there wasn't any bilingual jobs, even though I was living near an airport. And I looked, nothing there. So I came out, and as I came out, I just thought, oh, there was one more board there. I didn't look at that one. And as I went back in, the board was there, and this advert for nursing, like, leapt off and just went buoying in my spirit.
Right.
And again, my spirit's alive. So, you know, God will speak through anything, you know. And so that was one thing that happened. And then in the evening, I was going to somebody's house for a meal. They weren't leaders, just ordinary people in the church. And I went for a meal and, you know, what have you been doing today? I said, I've been looking for a job. And the lady said, have you ever thought about being a nurse? And it was like,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then there was a third thing, and I can't recall what the third thing was, but I used to be able to recall all three of them. But there was three things. And based on that, you know, it's the inner spirit responds to God's direction. And I concluded that God was directing me to change my career. I went to discuss it, and this is quite an important principle too. I went to discuss it I was in a small group in the church I was now a member of, and I shared what I was doing, and I didn't have a clue. At those days, it just said state registered nurse, SRN in the olden days, and state enrolled nurse. And the first one was a 3-year course and required more O-levels and A-levels. Maybe not A-levels, but O-levels definitely. And the other one was a more practical-based course, and you came out as an enrolled nurse or you came out as a state-registered nurse. So I discussed it with the leader of the group I was in, and I said, I don't know which one to go for. So he said, well, I think you should go for the higher one. You've got the qualifications, go for the higher one. But it was a longer training. It was 3 years.
Right.
So I got into nursing, and then during that time, I was asked to play this ping pong game, and heard about the ship. So during my nursing, I realised, right, this is the two going together. A nurse is going to be very practical on a ship, because the ministry of the ships is to bring medical assistance into areas where it's not available through the normal methods. So I flew out to Los Angeles in 1987. I flew out to Los Angeles. I came from cold. It was January. It was snowy. I was on the tarmac in Gatwick for 4 hours. The plane was laden with snow. They couldn't get off. And I flew into sunshine in California and got picked up. And the lady from the ship had come to pick me up, and I couldn't believe I was going to get on this ship. I said, where are we going now? I thought we would go to a place, we'd stay somewhere, then join the ship. She said, we're going straight to the ship. Wow. And when you've been waiting for something for a long time, and the Lord, had spoken to me 7 years before, and now it was 7 years that I was actually walking on board. And when I went on the ship, it was 10 o'clock at night, went up the gangway, everybody was quiet in bed. There was just the porter or the security guard. So I walked up the gangway, he checked me in, showed me my cabin, went downstairs to the bowels of the ship, into this 4-berth cabin shared with these total strangers I'd never met in my life. But I was too excited to go to sleep, because when you've been waiting for something for 7 years,
right,
and it's God's word,
and it's come to pass.
Exactly. So I just left my bags and I just went off and had a look around the ship. And
so you were not seasick or anything?
Well, it was in dock. It wasn't moving. It was tied up in Los Angeles,
right,
or in San Diego, one of those two. And I think it's Los Angeles. Then we sailed down to San Diego after that. So it was still. But I was too excited to sleep, so I went round. And the walls on a ship are called bulkheads. So I walked round, and any bulkhead I could get, I was knocking on it. Like, this is the word of the Lord come to pass.
Confirming the word of the Lord.
God spoke to me that name of that ship. This was now it.
Right.
I'd had this as a dream, as faith for a long time, and now it was happening. And then in they had glass cabinets in the reception area, and I was looking in there, and it had all the scriptures, that were compatible with this calling, to reach the poor and the needy. And like that scripture, arise, shine, for your light has come, the glory of God has risen upon you. And that was one of my scriptures, and it was in there, and it was just like I felt at home.
Wow.
I was with my people, or my tribe, as they say. Because like when you're in the wrong place,
right,
you don't relax, you're not fulfilled, and I think I'd overstayed.
Like fulfilling purpose. So you felt like you were fulfilling purpose at that time.
I was ready to fulfill purpose.
Right.
I'd got there. The journey there was a bit up and down, but I think I'd overstayed my welcome where I was, and I needed to just be transplanted into where I was called to be at the season then. And in 1986, April 1986.
When I was born.
Was it? Well, when you were being born, I was sitting in a church, and 2 hours beforehand, I'd been on the floor in my bedsit, knowing God had called me to this ship, but I wasn't there. I didn't know what was wrong with me, but I wasn't very happy. And I was on the floor, and I was just crying my eyes out. You know, you can be unhappy for a long time, can't you? But then there comes the point you've had enough. And I'd had enough. And I was bawling my eyes out on the floor, crying to God, you know, why am I so unhappy? And the words were, I just wish somebody knew how I felt. Wiped my eyes, went to church. I was in the worship team, sang in the worship team. Nobody knew what had been going on 2 hours earlier. And then at the end of the meeting, there was a visiting preacher, and his name was Rusty Russell, for those who are older. He was an American, and he was passing through. And so he just spoke a word, and he said, I'm going to prophesy now to different people. And then he picked me out, and he said, hope deferred makes the heart sick. And you feel like your heart is sick.
Wow.
2 hours earlier, I'd cried, oh God, I just wish somebody knew how I felt. And the Holy Spirit knows how we feel. And he used that scripture, you feel like your heart is sick. He said, but let me give you the rest of the scripture. And the rest of the scripture is, but desire realized or comes to pass or is fulfilled is a tree of life. And he said within 2 days, your faith is going to be able to rise back up and, you know, you'll move forward. And then he said within 6 days, there's going to be a joy and a, you know, just joy all over you that people will be saying, wow, what's happened to Lydia?
Wow.
So within 2 days, I got a letter from the ship office in Los Angeles, and they said, right, you've got to get out here. This application's been in now, but you've got to get out here or this application will close. And I felt like it was a kick to get going. So I think I'd been doing some fundraising, because you have to fund yourself. So I've been doing some fundraising, and so I just got more impetus, you know, to focus. So that was 2 days. So I got that direction I needed. This is what you need to do. You need to go to that ship. And then within 6 days, I was thinking, gosh, what's going to happen now? Well, nothing happened. After 6 days, I thought, oh, never mind. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to that ship.
Right.
So I just, you know, I made up flyers and went round the industrial estate in Crawley and approached them and said, can you help me? I'm fundraising. Can you help me? Anyway, the outcome of that fundraising was I got a free flight all the way to Los Angeles, direct. Wow. Yeah. So I never done that.
Was that a return flight?
It was a return flight. I never done that before, but I knew this was God and calling me there. So one of the places I went to, I lived near an airport, Gatwick Airport. So I went round, and I went to an airline company that's no longer in existence called British Caledonian.
Right.
And I went and, you know, said, oh, I've got this letter. Can I give it to the marketing office? So I gave it to the marketing office. And then I got a phone call, you know, and it was British Caledonian. He said, oh, hello, this is the marketing manager. We got your letter. We'd like to help you.
Wow.
And I nearly fell down, you know, on my chair and at home. And I tried to play it, you know, like, oh, this happens to me every day.
It happens all the time.
But what I'm saying is, you know, we can take steps of faith even when we're not sure. Just take a step of faith. And it doesn't matter, you don't have to be all guns blazing with faith. Right. You just have to take a step. Yeah. And so they phoned me and said, what sort of ticket would you like? And again, playing it ultra cool, I said, what sort of tickets have you got?
First class, please.
Well, they flew me. They said, well, you know, the different types. And they flew me direct, you know, no changes. And, you know, I was in Gatwick. Gatwick to LA is about 11 hours. Wow. It's a long way. And they said, we'll give you a year return.
Wow.
So praise the Lord. You know, as I stepped out, did what I could, you know, just my little feet walking around that industrial estate. God intervened and sent me all the way free of charge to join the ship. So when I, you know, got there and walked on board, that's why I was banging on the bulkhead, because I knew God had called me and sent me. And then from LA, I think the next day we sailed down to San Diego, and we were in San Diego for a week or maybe 2. And, you know, and then we sailed for the first outreach. So I was on the operating team.
Wow.
And I was the scrub nurse, so I handed the eye surgeon the instruments for the eye surgery. And the first surgery we did on board was on a Mexican lady, an older lady. She got a cataract. And, you know, I just stood back and thought, wow, we've just given this woman sight.
Wow.
And one of the scriptures, you know, that the people in Greece had been praying about was about the sight coming to the blind.
Wow.
And here we were, we'd just given this woman sight, and she could see, you know, because cataracts are cloudy lenses, and they block the vision. In that first operation, we didn't have any lenses, so we couldn't replace the lens, but we gave the lady glasses, so she could wear glasses. Subsequent operations, we were able to give lenses, because when we were in America, that's what we were doing. We were fundraising, trying to get the supplies. So in time, we did a lot of, you know, PR and fundraising, and we were able to get the lenses, so we could put lenses inside the eye in the operation, and they could see. So, you know, it shows the love of God. And so working on the ship was a fulfilment of God's calling. Praise the Lord.
I can listen to you talk about this. I know I've heard most of these stories because you've told them to me. But again, it's just so interesting to hear what God has done in your life and the miracles that He's worked through, you know, to get you to the place where you went to. And the reason why we want to hear these kind of messages is because somebody might be out there having the same experience that you're having and thinking, how am I going to do this? Is the Lord going to come in for me? Is He going to come through for me? But then they'll hear your story and they'll say, if God did it for Lydia, He can do it for me too. So fast forward to 2022, we went to the Island Reach, which was one of the ships that, you know, we went to interview the captain on there, and you spoke to the captain on board the ship as well. I just wanted to find out if you can tell us a little bit more about the Island Reach, and then we'll...
Yeah, well, the Island Reach is a small vessel which, you know, the Lord really has worked into Youth with a Mission ship ministry. And many of the smaller vessels, you know, they work in different places. There's one down the Amazon River, one in Papua New Guinea, in the Philippines, but there's nothing in a French-speaking area.
Right.
And so Jeunesse en Mission, or Youth with a Mission, in Switzerland, you know, they had it on their heart, and so they were told about this vessel, which is an ex-naval vessel, which is available,
Right.
and the Lord has provided, you know, for them to obtain that vessel, and it's been sailed down from Greenock down into Conwy in North Wales, and work has been going on there to tidy it up and to you know, bring things up to scratch. It's actually very well maintained because it's an ex-naval vessel, but there's some perishables, you know, that need to be replaced, and so there's been a fantastic group of volunteers who've come together with interest in sailing and an interest in helping Youth with a Mission to get this vessel going. So they've done a marvellous work, and some of the work has been done as well in PR. And so in order to convert that naval vessel into a functioning medical vessel, quite a lot of restructuring and structural steel work has to be done.
On it.
And that's actually what's happening now.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, well, before you tell us about all the structural work that's been done, well, we at the Mission Channel took our cameras and crew there, and we went over to Conwy, and this is what we saw.
Good morning. Here we are on board Island Reach in Conwy, North Wales. And I'm delighted to have with me one of the captains of Island Reach, Captain David. So thank you very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure and nice to have you on board.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking just a little bit about the function of this ship, where it's come from, and a little bit about yourself as well. So welcome to Island Reach. And David, I believe you've been a captain for a long time?
Yes, I've been a captain for a good many years.
Yeah.
And I've been with cruise ships since a long time, but I've had a lot of experience with cruise ships. I was with Cunard Line for 24 years, and I had the privilege of sailing on the QE2. And also, latterly, I was instrumental in setting up Saga's cruise ship business.
The Sagas, that's for the over 50s, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's an interesting fact. Yes, you always keep learning, don't you, when you do these interviews? Yeah. So, how have you got involved with this ship? It's a much smaller ship. Island Reach is so much smaller than a passenger ship. How have you got involved?
Well, that's a very good question. I'm retired. I'm retired now, and I just feel that there's a need for outreach work and I'm really passionate about sailing, and through that, I really got to know Jeremy McWilliam, who I think you've interviewed already, and in an interesting way, I was invited to go out to Next Wave in Lesbos.
Okay.
And that's when I met up with Tony, who is also part of the voluntary group of us. There's 4 of us, and the other one is a good friend of mine who we sail together. And so we're a group of Christian sailors.
I believe you've got a little nickname, haven't you?
We have. We've been called the 4 Cs.
The 4 Cs.
Conway Christian Cruising Club.
Okay, that's nice to know. Yeah. So this ship, Island Reach, is part of Youth with a Mission ships. I can see on your T-shirt you've got YWAM ships Switzerland. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So you mentioned the Next Wave as well, and it was birthed in Lesbos. That was helping with the refugee crisis
That's right.
in Greece. Yeah. So this ship is one of, I think, is it 28 ships within Youth with a Mission?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yes.
So and the ministry of the ships. Can you tell us a little bit about what the function of this ship will be?
Well, this particular ship has brought with the idea of, or the intention of going to Madagascar as a medical ship to serve the needs of the people of Madagascar who are unable to see doctors and dentists, and so she is going to be converted to that for that purpose, which does mean there's a lot of new structure to be made on board to accommodate the medical facilities, because currently she is a working boat for the ex-Royal Navy, and so she was a tender up in the Clyde area, and that's where we collected her from Greenock and brought her down to Conway in December.
That's quite a short space of time between coming down from Greenock and being an ex-naval vessel to what I can see has already happened on board. There's a lot of renovation started already, and there's a quick turnaround, isn't there? And that's great.
It's remarkable how so many people have come forward and sown into the vision.
Yeah.
And not necessarily people from the street walking by who are retired engineers with technical skills, and they've just offered their services.
Because you're in a good location, aren't you?
We're in a brilliant
You're in
location.
Conway Harbour.
Yeah.
And people walk past all the time, and you've got a notice on the front of the ship to say what the ship's about. And I can see also you've just added something on it to do with fundraising for YWAM Ukraine.
Yes.
YWAM standing for Youth with a Mission. So can you tell us your role in particular on board the ship? You've been a captain of a cruise liner, you're now on a small little vessel. So what's your function here whilst it's in Conway?
I'm very fortunate that I live locally, so I've been sort of the go-to person here if and when there's any needs, and I just keep a watch on the vessel, and I come down periodically and just make sure that she is in sound condition, the bilges are all dry and anything, there's no problems. If there's any bad weather, I obviously come down and check the ropes. So I'm here on hand, but I'm a volunteer. I'm a volunteer. I've forgotten where I wore the stripes of a captain. I'm just here purely as hands-on to help wherever I can.
But it's great, isn't it? Having that opportunity to use that vast experience of nautical life and sailing, for a Christian mission. And can you tell us what as a Christian, you know, you're benefiting from being involved locally. You know, how is it changing your thinking, or, you know, have you met the Lord in a fresh or a different way since you've been involved with this volunteer project?
I certainly have. I'm absolutely amazed day on day how God is so involved in this, that when we think that we came down here with the sole purpose of just making the ship ready to go to Madagascar where their work would be done there. But people have just shown so much interest in this that we are now doing the work here. And we've had an incredible offer to do the steelwork structure by Collingwood Boatyard in Liverpool, who are funding the whole of that project.
Amazing. Yeah, and the project that's happening, that's going to be the foredeck. My understanding is that the foredeck is going to have another deck built on top.
That's correct, yes.
And that will become the accommodation for the medical staff.
Yes.
And then below that, the holds are going to be transformed into a medical unit for eye surgery, cataract surgery,
That's
or eye
correct,
treatments,
yes.
and dental, and also a pharmacy,
Yes.
a dispensing unit, and for a doctor who would be running like general clinics. So that is a massive undertaking,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it is.
Yeah, and then what other aspects of renovation are happening within the ship?
Well, from not only the biggest project will be the steelwork,
Right.
the fabrication and the fitting of the additional accommodation. So that is a big, but out of that is that people in the dentistry and ortho have come forward and said that they will. We're having offers of people advising us on how those should be laid out. They have also donating equipment that's no longer being used but adequate for what they need. So we're absolutely astounded. Every week we meet here as a working party on a Friday, and we have so many stories to tell on how it's affected people's lives. It's really amazing. It's just...
And it takes so many people, doesn't it? You know, God uses people, and it takes, you know, the people who could do the practical work, you know, like the engineers, renovating the ship itself, the actual maintenance, you know,
Yes,
the
right.
engineers who can run the ship,
Yeah.
seamen like yourself who can sail it when it comes time to sail it. Then you've got the supplies, you know, the doctors and the nurses can't work without medical supplies. So it's really important that everybody gets involved. And so if somebody does want to get involved in any of those capacities, how can they get in touch?
Well, there is a website on the banner that we have on the front, across the bridge front here, and they can log into that, and then they can take it. That will lead them into how they can donate.
Yes, so...
And
Yeah.
we have broken down the various requirements, estimated costs, so people can choose which one they feel that they can actually donate to the ship, and we will recognise that as well in some form.
Yes.
And whether it be, you know, acknowledgement on the banners or whatever, but we will recognise and we appreciate every aspect, no matter how small or large a donation. It will be very much appreciated.
Yes, thank you. So if you're interested in getting involved, then please get in touch with the ship ministry, and YWAM Ships is the overall partner for this particular ship. So that's ywamships.ch, and that will also be available on the film. And locally, you can get in touch with Jeremy or David, or come down on a Friday morning at 9 o'clock where there's breakfast served. And if you want to volunteer in any of your time or donate in any capacity, then you're very welcome to come down to Conway Harbour and join us for breakfast one Friday morning. So is there any other comments you'd like to make in terms of the benefits of people getting involved as a volunteer?
No, it's just a wonderful experience. The fellowship and the camaraderie is exceptional. And we've got people who may necessarily not be believers, but they are just giving their time because they see the heart of the people who have come forward.
Yeah.
And it's touching their heart.
So if you want to experience any of that fellowship, have a bit of envisioning, be inspired, develop a relationship with the Lord, or develop your current relationship with the Lord, doing something different like this could be what you need. Well, we're out now on the quayside with Captain David, and we just wanted to have a look at what the renovations are going to be taking place. David, can you tell us what's happening on board the ship on this deck?
Well, obviously, because they need more facilities for the medical staff, we have to build more accommodation. And so the accommodation is going to be a steel structure, which is going to, the forward end of it will be where that crane is currently, but that will be removed. And then the structure will follow the line of the ship to the existing steelwork there, and that will accommodate the medical staff. Mm-hmm. And then the hatch, which is currently used as a holding area, that will be removed completely, and then down below there will be the dentistry, the ophthalmic, and the general medical practice with a dispensary. So that's all going to happen below the structure that we're looking at on deck.
Okay, and here we are down below deck, and this is the hold, and this is the area that's going to be converted, and there's going to be a lot of steel structural work done in here. So standing where I am right now, this is going to be the dental unit, and there's already been donated all the equipment to furnish it out as a dental unit. So we thank those who have donated that. Over on this side, this will be transformed into an eye operating unit, and dealing with eye trauma or possibly cataract surgery. Cataract surgery can be life transforming. It can change a whole life. For a child who's born with a cataract, it can change the whole life. Or for somebody who's lived in decreasing sight over many years, it can be a life transforming experience. And that shows the love of Jesus. You know, he loves people and he wants them to see. And here we are in the hold of the ship, moving over now to the dispensary area. So this area will stock medication, so antibiotics, pain relief for post-surgery, and anything else that the general physician might need to use for treating patients as well. Over here, we've got a waiting area, but could also be converted into a consulting room for the general doctor. And the facilities here are going to make it easier for the medical staff. So rather than carrying all the equipment and going out up a river on a boat to find a remote village, the villagers will come here, and the doctors and the nurses and the dentists, dental staff will be able to work in the same location. It's always easier to work in a familiar environment. It'll also be air conditioned, which will make it a lot easier than working out in the heat. And it will also be good for the storage of the medications as well, to have them at a good temperature that makes them stay effective longer. So that's it. So this whole hold area is going to be converted by the finances and by the hard work of volunteers. And this is where your money will be going. And we thank the company in Liverpool very much for their generous donation of labour and of steel material, and they're going to be involved in the fabrication of these units down below, as well as of the accommodation for the medical team upstairs. So thank you very much for those who are donating their time, and for those who are going to be donating finances. We appreciate it, and the people of Madagascar will definitely appreciate it. The front part of the ship, the forward part of the ship, is going to be the medical unit, really.
Yes, the forward part will be their accommodation,
Yeah.
and above that deck will be a flat area, and there will be an awning over it because it's going to be very hot out there, where they will process
So the people come on
on board.
go through the screening,
They go to the screening,
take the details down, and just assess
what their requirements are, and then they would feed them down to whatever and medical needs they require.
Yeah. And the value of a ship like this is that you can process, quite quickly. With the people coming through, do short interventions. So, for example, the eye work. If they do eye surgery, you can have several people go through and have cataract surgery in one day.
Yeah, I believe so. I've not experienced it, but I understand that's how it works.
I worked with the first medical ship with Youth with a Mission, and I was on the eye surgery team. So we do the screening and assess, whether we can do anything with the cataract, and then, it's a very short operation. As long as you've got the right equipment and the right people, you can get a lot of cataracts done in one day. And then the other effective thing that this ship can be involved in is dental work. So from my experience of working in many countries who don't have access to healthcare or dental care, there's a lot of dental decay and a lot of pain and infection, and that can cause a lot of distress. So to have dentists who can remove teeth and prevent the development of infection, that could be a last resort in this country. But where you need ongoing dental work for putting caps in or reconstructive work, that can take a long time. So in some situations, it's easy just to remove the tooth, and it takes the pain away. If anybody's had dental pain, you know what it's like. Yeah. So it's going to be really effective, treating people with dental problems, eye problems, and then there's going to be a doctor, I believe, isn't there?
Yes. There'll be volunteers, just similar to us. We're more operational, but they're going to give their time and their skills to these people of Madagascar.
Yeah. So we're looking for people who can commit, for periods of time. Eye surgeons, dental hygienists, dental nurses, dentists, and general physicians. And nurses who can support what's going on, and somebody with pharmacy background as well to run the pharmacy. And those are the sorts of supplies we're looking for as well. So if you're interested in helping with furnishing some of the supplies, mental or dental supplies, or in volunteering, then please get in touch with YWAM Ships Switzerland, and the information is available here on screen. And it's all a voluntary effort. Nobody gets paid, so you actually do have to pay yourself to come and work on board. But as you mentioned earlier in the interview, it's a rewarding experience, isn't it, being involved?
Yes, it is very much so. Yeah.
And the sail down to Madagascar, I think it's 8,000 miles?
Yes, just under 8,000, because we're now going through the Mediterranean.
Okay.
And it's a shorter distance through the Mediterranean and through the Suez Canal, and then down the Red Sea, and then across to Madagascar. There will be obviously stops for fueling and water and victualling, but there also will be crew changes as well. So not everybody's going to do the whole run. If anybody is, I'm not quite sure of that. But.
Yeah, and I guess as well, the medical staff won't be needed necessarily on that portion, but they will fly into Madagascar.
They'll fly into Madagascar. Yeah.
And sailing, you've got a lot of background in sailing, with the passenger liners. But when you're sailing a vessel like this that has a very different purpose, I mean, how does that feel?
Well, first of all, it's a lovely little ship, and you're much closer to the water. She doesn't have a great deal of speed, so it'll take a lot longer, and there will be lengthy times at sea. So, but we will have a crew. We'll have a crew of, with the accommodation be made here now, that increases our number of crew availability. Currently, she only has availability of accommodation for 6, but with the new accommodation we can carry probably another 6.
Yes.
So that will ease the burden for the opportunity, the times that people are having to man the bridge, because
Yes.
the bridge is manned 24
24.
hours.
Yeah, yeah. And also when you're sailing a vessel like this with such a different purpose to cruising, you know, I was thinking, you know, that's probably generates lots of other emotions as well, doesn't it? You know.
Yes, it does. You'll obviously get to know people much closer because you're living in a closer environment,
Yeah.
and there isn't this sort of freedom to just say, well, I'm going home tonight.
Yeah.
We're going to be together for a long time. So you will get to know people, and that's one of the great beauties, is the camaraderie that we've developed in the short space of time that we've been aboard. When
Yeah.
we brought it down from Greenock, we had 10 on board, and you know, it was a wonderful experience. People sharing all their different emotions and their experiences, and some, of course, didn't enjoy the motion either.
Yes, yes, that's got its challenges, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, David. Supporting through prayer, through finances, through gifts in kind. We're looking for practical things for the ship itself, and then also for the medical and dental supplies. Or if you're interested in volunteering, then please do get in touch with us. This is totally voluntary, and it's for an excellent cause. And the purpose of this vessel is to improve the quality of life for people in Madagascar. So please come, join us, get involved, and you will be blessed.
Absolutely.
So is there anything else, like, you know, finances or?
Well, unfortunately, it doesn't run on air.
Yeah.
We obviously need to raise a lot of finances, you know.
Yeah.
So people are providing wonderful, like I've already said, steel and
Gifts in
wallboarding
kind,
and things like
yeah.
that. But there will come a point where, you know, to fuel the vessel to get all the way down, there will be a considerable amount of money. We're talking 40,000, 50,000 pounds for the fuel. And also there's a whole list of items, from small items £100 up to quite large items of 10,000 for generators and things like that. That if a person wanted to adopt, or a church wanted to adopt a particular item, that is also a way that we could really use help.
I mean, this is a needs list, basically, isn't
Yes,
it? Broken down, and like you say, churches or individuals.
Yeah, could sponsor
take a
an item.
project.
Yeah.
So it goes here from in the renovation section. We've got something at 1,950, which is not too much, is it, for a large organisation?
No.
Or £500, a mobile crane hire for fitting the new units.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Another £500 on service and repair of the fire alarm system.
Yeah.
£2,500 accessory screws, bolts, welding, etc. So it's broken down.
Yeah, into
Or
bits and pieces. Yeah.
and £300 for flares, which are an emergency item. So if you wanted to pool together with friends, or if you're in a church or an organisation, a business, and you wanted to donate like £2,000, we've got something that you could target your £2,000 at and has it as designated.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'd be very grateful. You know,
Yeah.
every single little bit helps to get this thing down there.
And if you're watching and you're in the area, or you want to come from out of the area and come down to the vessel, then please get in touch, and we'll facilitate a visit, and you can talk and see what's happening and where your finances would be going.
Generally speaking, we have a volunteer day here every Friday. So
Okay.
Friday's a good day, but also there are others around that can come on other days.
Yeah.
But if you just feel like coming, and we have breakfast provided every morning at 9 o'clock on the boat on Friday, and it's a chance to come and chat and pray and
Right.
and catch the vision. So you're very welcome. But if there's going to be 20 or 30 of you,
Please get in touch ahead of time.
give me advance warning so we can prepare for you.
Yeah. Okay, lovely. Thank you very much, Captain Jeremy. And we look forward to having you on board at some point, or having your presence on board through your finances, through your gifts in kind, or through your prayers. This is a Christian mission, and
Yes,
it's
that's
founded
right.
in prayer. And we thank you for listening, and God bless you.
So when we went to Conway, the only thing that I didn't like was that I got seasick. I could not function very well. And the boat was docked. It was not moving.
There was a low tide day.
It was not moving, but I was like, Lydia, take over. So you all on the Mission Channel just witnessed Lydia interviewing the captain. You interviewed
There's two captains. Yeah.
two captains there, and you went around. So she was doing all the interviews. So you can tell us a little bit more on what's happened then and what's happening now to the boat.
Yeah. Well, the response in Conwy, in North Wales, and in other parts of the UK and in Switzerland has been great. You know, people are behind this project, and the pace at which it's moved has amazed me. You know, I was involved for a long time in the early days of pioneering Youth of the Mission's medical ministry with the ships, and I know how much was involved. I know. But the pace at which this is moving is amazing. And so when we were in Conwy, you know, we saw, as the video just shown, the areas that are going to be moved and transferred from being an empty hold into a functioning pharmacy, into an eye unit and a dental unit. But in order for that for the structure to be done, and for it to be done according to fire safety standards, you know, when you're on a vessel or anywhere, it's got to be done to certain standards for health and safety. And so there's a company from Liverpool that has generously provided the steel free of charge.
Wow.
And the ship has now sailed from Conwy out into the bay, down the Manchester Ship Canal, and then across into the River Weaver and down into Acton Bridge.
Right.
And I've been getting the updates from the crew there, and a lot of steel has been, you know, things have been cut out that need to be moved, and the structure is taking shape. So they're looking around July for it to come back to Conwy. That's not set in steel, but it's you know, that's the goal.
Right.
So it's making fast progress.
That's before it goes to Madagascar.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So it'll come then back to Conwy, and then it'll have, you know, finishing touches done, and hoping, you know, towards the end of the year that it will begin I think it's 8,000 miles down to Madagascar.
Wow.
So Youth of the Mission Switzerland, YWAM ships in Switzerland, are the owners of the vessel. They've got the overall responsibility, but clearly they've got a lot of help from volunteers and from people like myself. I'm associate Youth of the Mission person. And so what we also need is people to pray.
Right.
You've got to pray. You've got to pray, because nobody in any ministry can do anything without prayer.
Yeah.
We need prayer. So if you're a prayer warrior, please pray. Please pray for YWAM ships and for Island Reach in particular as it sails to go to Madagascar. One of the things you can pray for is the fuel to get to Madagascar.
And the doctors, the nurses that are needed.
We need to pray for doctors.
Right.
We need like people in the eye field, so ophthalmologist and the, what's that word they use they're not opticians now, they're optometrists. That's what they're called. Nurses experienced in eye work. We need a general doctor, and we need somebody to cook. Volunteers, yeah. And if you've got any technical skills, like as an engineer on a ship, or, you know, a decky, you know, then please get in touch with Youth of the Mission Switzerland, YWAM Ships Switzerland. So we need that. But, you know, we've seen many miracles in the YWAM Ships ministry. Talking about the journey, you know, the fuel prices have gone up so much.
Exactly.
And so we need a lot of money to sail the ship 8,000 miles. It'll go, I'm not going to quote the route, but it's going to have to, I think, go through the Suez Canal. That'll cut the journey time out, then down the east coast of Africa and into Madagascar. So pray for safety.
Yes.
Yeah. But also, I remember sailing with the Anastasis, the first ship. We were sailing down to go through Central America. So we were coming from Mexico, and we were trying to get through the other side, and we had to go through the Panama Canal.
Wow.
Because otherwise you have to go all the way down to the bottom of South America, which is lots of time and money. So we were sailing, you know, and we were headed to go through the Panama Canal. And we didn't have the funds to pay to go through the Panama Canal. And we were sailing to go there And we're praying, and all our supporters, you know, on the shore were praying. And then we got this call, you know, on the tannoy, we've got it, you know.
Wow.
It's exciting, you know, when you're living on the edge. Speaking of which, you've got Lauren Cunningham's book, Living on the Edge. So it's, you know, it's faith. So these things, you know, they stretch your faith. And I give credit, you know, to the leaders on that ship, because by their example, I saw faith in action at a higher level than what I had at that time. And, you know, I've grown because of what I witnessed in their lives. Yeah.
And apart from you, you know, Youth with a Mission has supported a lot of people, you know, bringing them to the Lord, a lot of young people. You talked about the discipleship courses that I know you've taught some. I think you said, was it?
The Faroe Islands.
The Faroe Islands. You've been. You see, you've told me so many things. You've been to the Faroe Islands where you were teaching on the discipleship courses, and there's so many other courses that you can go on if you want to contact Youth with a Mission. Is www.ywam.org. But Lydia, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure having you here at the Mission Channel, and hopefully maybe you can come again and talk more about your personal life. I'm sure you will bless somebody out there.
Well, God is inexhaustible, isn't it? So I think if we talk about the Lord, then it's inexhaustible.
Yes, so would definitely love to have you back sometime soon if you can. Thank you so much. My name is Charity Pepuzani, and we will see you soon. God bless you.